Hi, my friend. It's Pat Sloan here on the last day of March. Let's wave March goodbye. I'm ready for it to go. It's been a little bit, well, we had some nice days in the beginning, but yeah, it's been a little bit cold last few days. So I'm just ready. I'm ready for April to come on in. Come on in. So string bean, let's do string bean first. Da, 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 da. There it is. It's a biggie. I didn't measure it, but it is what it is. Whatever it said on the pattern, plus 12 inches, because there's a 6-inch border on the top, whoops, on the top there, and then the same border on the bottom to give it a little bit more length, because it was not square but close, and I wanted to make it just a little bit longer. It's super nice. Now, what will I do with this one? So here's the deal. Here's the deal. From this point on, when I make things like this, it's not going into a book or to a magazine. I'm not using it to teach. So these are quilts that I make for charity. I'll make these and then I'll decide, will I quilt it or will I give it to my friend Susan and her different groups of charity organizations that she works with, and they can quilt it. And in this case, for this one, I'm going to pass it along. So I will send the top and backing and some binding fabric so that they can go ahead and quilt it. There are several groups. They make them to give to all kinds of different organizations. I think this one is bright and happy and would be really fun for a youth, for a some sort of a teenager, person, a teenager person. You know, those kind. But that is what I'm going to do with this one. So you will not see it quilted. I will be going ahead and giving it to Susan. She's coming in a couple of weeks to gather up some of the things that I've been saving. And so that is where it will go. I have a few other tops that I'm actually going to show you before I give them to her, because they're ones from a long time ago that I want to get out and just move those along to new homes as well. So I'll let her have those to use. Because the groups have like long arms and people who, this is what they do, they make charity quilts. So I'll donate the top to them. So there we go. I will take it outside in the next few days and photograph it on my clothesline so I can put a stand up and get a full picture of it to put in my gallery page, which you can find from the top of any of my websites. There's a little navigation bar and there's a gallery. Okay, today is, I said we need to show some spring quilts. So I want to see some of your spring quilts, and I'm going to show you two of mine with two sizes that I've done. Okay, so first we'll do the smaller one. This is a table runner. It's a free pattern. So the Chubby Chicks free pattern is out on my website. The link is below in the description box. They're just so fun. They're applique, and I love them. I have always loved them. I put this out in the spring, which might be soon here, like today. And then I also did it as just a one block. So isn't he adorable as one block? You could use this to hang up on a stand. You could use it as a little table mat, as a little decorative mat with your decorations for spring. You could just tuck this in there. So, so sweet. I love him. Okay, the other one is my tulip quilt. And so this is in my celebration book. There we go. Ta-da! Tulips, tulips, tulips. So this is in, I'll show you, Celebrate the Seasons. I just love this one. I love the tulips, and you can see I love it because, I've kept one tulip. When we did the sew along for this, we did a bunch of different things, and I made a bunch of different single blocks. Cindy had quilted this one. She did a beautiful vine out here, and then just some background quilting, and then different quilting in each of the tulips. I'll hold it up, maybe you can see it. The backing, I didn't have quite enough, so it's got some green around the edges. And then I made a smaller version. When we did the sew along a couple years ago, I took one of the blocks that I made, I loved so much, I made a small 4-block wall hanging. Look how sweet that is. So this one needs to get hung up. So I think I'm going to hang it in my hallway, which is next to next to the door, so I can see it all the time when I'm walking down the hallway. Polka dots for the win. All right, so I have a little segment. I've been, going through the bins. So Oh, let me just show you this one. Oh, this is one of the ones I have to do still. This is blue fabric, light blue, not the dark blue. So these are the light blues. Look at this. It's a mess. And this is one of my Longaberger baskets, so it is not a pliable basket. It doesn't have the stretch like I showed you, I think it was Monday's video. I don't have that. But there was a question somebody asked, whoops, about, you know, how do I know, who asked that? Do I have the, no, I don't have who asked that. You know, but how do I know what size I will cut up into smaller squares? So let me show you that first, and then I went through the process and filmed it of showing you how I use the die cut machine, the Accuquilt, to go ahead and cut the squares. But first, what size? So I think it would be, I've got a few pieces here. I think this would be an obvious one. It needs pressed, but you know, I'll keep this the selvage here, and then that star strip. Definitely, I'm not right now making a lot of scrappy quilts with all different kind of backings and stuff, or all different kind of pieces. I'm just not doing that. So things like this just get stuck or jammed down the bottom of the basket, and as you can see, this one was so wrinkly because that's what happened. It just got sort of shoved down in the bottom. So that's a good candidate. And I think that's a really obvious one to see. Same with this, it's a square. I think it was probably, it looks like a layer cake square. It's still got all the pinking, yeah. So it's a 10-inch square. Random 10-inch squares, yep. But then you have other things like this. It's a little bit bigger, but it's not big enough for me to do a regular project. So I'm just going to cut it up, because I actually need a little bit more variety of the lights in order to do the quilts that I'm doing with the light and a dark, those square quilts. So here's one that's a little bigger. Now this has a little bit more fabric. There we go. So it's a pretty big chunk, but I am going to cut this one up first because I like the fabric. I like it, and it'll make a great addition to the 2.5-inch squares. And I'm not going to keep it to do some other project with. It's just really not quite enough for that. I could keep it, but it's kind of on the fence. Then I have some scraps of dots, and those will go. So what happens is let me show you the video first, and then I'll show you this next thing. Okay, let's watch. So I have a project for myself for the next few evenings, well, maybe just take 2 evenings, to do 2.5-inch squares from a lot of the scraps that I've been getting out of the bins. So let me show you. I'll flip this around, and down here I have a start. When I've been going through the bins and sorting them like I showed you on Monday, I was pulling out pieces that are small, like here's stuff left over from the string bean. They're not very big pieces, so I decided they're going to all be the 2.5-inch squares, which will go into these containers here to use, because that is my most efficient and fun for me scrap size to use. So I've got the Go Big. This is the electric one, and all I have to do now is cut them. So I can layer up like 6 layers here and then run it through the machine. So I grabbed a few pieces here. They are pressed, which I think makes it work better. This is a long strip. So what I did was, I'm doing this one-handed, so I lined it up, but what I want to do is fold it at each fold so that it's just past the line of the die, and then I will flop the other part up, and the same thing. I'll redo this afterwards when I have both hands, but I would just accordion it like this so that it goes back and forth, and I'm trying to be fairly frugal, so it can go quick when you have 2 hands. Then I do the bottom edge again, so there we go. I want to be sure it's lined up. Now there's this flap out here. If I do this, it's not going to make a great cut because it's going to have some of this selvage, and this one is going to anyways, but I think I can instead just trim this flap off and put it through with another grouping. So I tidied this up and I cut that piece off. So I'm going to just put that piece on the side so it covers, because this is a 3x3, so it's doing 9 sections. And then I have this extra piece, so I will put this one on so that it fits over there. And then I could layer some more here, but I think just for demo purposes I'm going to go ahead. the machine is on. See the green light? All you do is push the electric one and it comes out the other end. Here we go. Oh, I touched it. So that is the perils of real life. So you can't touch it when you have to let it go all the way through, and I didn't. I touched it too soon so that it thought it was stuck and it backed itself out, which is a good thing to do. But I filming. So I cut some of them. The other pieces that it didn't because it backed out, I just put them back on there, and let me just run it through without touching it. There we go. I won't touch it till it goes a little bit further past. There, now I can. Okay. So this is 2-inch squares, lots and lots of 2-inch squares. So I'll get that whole group of things cut up and put them in my bin. There we go. Ta-da! So what am I learning from the stack? This is what I still have left, the smaller pieces. I figured out that I could go and cut anything I could cut into an 8-inch square, could go on here layered. Now what I learned, and I didn't do it here, was that if I could do colors together, then it's easier to sort them by color. So like there's an aqua here, but then down on the bottom there was another aqua. You can see it here. I did manage to get the 2 greens together. There's 2 greens, a green and a green, but in order to sort these I should have put the colors together so it's easier when I flip them around, because what I have is over here all the stacks before I put them down into the bins, and then this is for the scraps. So I am learning, and that's what you do. You have to do things in order to learn. So I am now going to experiment with this group and figure out, well, what's the best way? Should I pre-cut some of these strips down? Should I just layer them and not worry about it? And there'll be some that don't get cut full. So I'm sort of experimenting there too. So there is a peek at how I am learning. So it's all about learning something new. I mean, I'm not sure yet, you know, I like doing that whole batch of them. I made a few observations, like I said, and, you know, now I will sort things by color so that it is not I don't have to separate them. I can just pull them off. I will look a little bit more, I think, about pre-cutting some of the bigger cutting chunks so that it's a little easier to lay them on there. Those are things that you learn by doing. So anytime you're learning something new, you have to actually get in there and do it. I am not an expert on die cut machines. I am learning what works for me and what I like to use it for and how I like to use it. So cutting these scraps was a breeze. It was so nice. It is nice to cut it by ruler, which I've done forever. But I thought, you know what? This stack got pretty big and I got through them a lot faster than if I was doing it with my ruler. So I am totally sold on this. So I want to show you a couple more things about that. So first, here's a stack. So, you know, this would be a stack that I would get. And then here would be sort of the leftovers that are not 2.5-inch squares. They're still, I think, very usable pieces of fabric for people who want to do crumb blocks or do a lot of little, you know, things. So what I've done is, starting on January 1st, because this year I'm not sewing my crumb blocks, I was sewing with these crumbs into blocks like I did in 2021. So I have kept, this is a whole bag, January, February, March. This is the last day of March. So I'm going to photograph this bag. I'm going to add these things to it. I'm going to photograph the bag, and then this will go off to Susan because she either has people who are interested in this within the charity groups that she works with, or at the thrift store that she's associated with. So that it will go to a good home and somebody will use them. And then I will, every 3 months, I will see what size bag I get. I'm not going to wait and hold them all year. I'll just keep a picture so I can have a documentation of it. I think I might put it up in the gallery. I think that would be interesting just to see. I may even weigh it. I don't know. It's heavy. It's heavy. So the other thing I did, let me just grab one here, is that some of the dies that I've gotten were not in the, from Accuquilt, are not in their build-a-block, you know, their sets. They have these sets. So I had these, you know, loose dies, and everybody told me you have to store them on edge, not laying on top of each other like this. And so I was like, okay. So I found out they have empty boxes. So these are nice boxes that you can get. I can write on here what's in it, and these will be the ones on the shelf, on the back of the table, that I use all the time. So I can just keep those there that I use all the time. And that way it's more efficient for me. I will use the machine more because I don't have to go hunt for the die. I know the dies that I use all the time are there. And I recently got a tumbler die, which I want to play with. So I am very excited about that, because I think some of this stuff that I'm coming up will be really fun to, cutting up will be really fun to cut them into tumblers. Like maybe if I was doing this bin of light blues, wouldn't it be neat to have a light blue and white tumbler quilt? I think that would be so cool. So that is a thought of mine, of like, oh, well, maybe I'll, do that with some of the pieces. Because if you're getting out, well, I just hold it up here. Like if I were deciding this piece was something I'm not going to save now, then I could cut this into tumblers, and I could just do a tumbler block with 2 colors, similar to what I'm doing with the squares. So that's kind of a thought, because I've always been interested in the tumbler quilts, and want to really see what that could develop into. Okay. Let me just do one other Q&A. On here on YouTube, 00 asked, that was her name, 00, or his name, were these the only bins that I have my fabric in? No, sweet child. I have lots more fabric. I'll just go like this, and you can see on the other side of the room, there's more bins. But then on the back side of my table are more bins. I have fabric in here, and I have fabric in the other room. And then I have all the project bins. So there's quite a bit of fabric. It's not like some people you might know. I keep a more limited group of fabric. There's some other questions that came up about fabric that I think I might do like one Q&A and bring this question back in and do a little tour of where my fabric lives. So that is, I think, what I'll do. Okay, show me your spring quilts. I'll just hold this one up again because, purple tulips. Now I need to go to the grocery store and get a bunch of tulips, don't you think? Yeah. Look at this. Or the garden center and the bulbs, I guess they might be up. I don't know. Get something with a bulb that I can have it come up next year. All right, my friend. If your string bean is not finished, then you want to get that done. Whoops. And figure out, hey, get it all finished up. Show it over in the group. Show a spring quilt today. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.